We are counting down 20 cherished Christmas traditions that defined family life in the 1950s. From the simple joys of hands-on holiday crafts and the first glow of TV specials, to futuristic decorations inspired by the space age and the heartwarming rituals that still inspire nostalgia today. Each entry reveals how post-war optimism and community spirit shaped the season. Which tradition brings back the most magical memories? Let us begin our countdown with number 20. Nothing signaled the start of Christmas dreaming quite like the arrival of the Sears Christmas Wish Book. Each fall, millions of these thick catalogs landed in mailboxes across the country, sparking a ritual in living rooms from city apartments to rural farms. Children flipped through page after page of toys, circling trains, duels, and cowboy outfits with eager pencils, while parents quietly took notes for their own holiday planning. The Wish Book made gift-giving feel possible for families everywhere, offering everything from bicycles to chemistry sets by mail order, even in the most remote towns. In 1955, a misprinted Sears ad inviting children to call Santa accidentally rang through to a military command center. That mistake gave birth to the NORAD Santa Tracker, a holiday legend that is still going strong. For many, those dog-eared catalog pages were the first taste of Christmas magic each year. Evenings in the 1950s often found families gathered around the kitchen table, bowls of popcorn and cranberries at the ready. Threading each piece onto string wasn't just about decorating the tree. It was a way for parents and children to share stories, laughter, and the occasional pricked finger. Women's magazines and Sunday newspaper supplements offered step-by-step guides, turning a simple craft into a nationwide tradition. The scent of fresh popcorn mixed with the chatter of siblings, and more than a few kernels disappeared before reaching the garland. These handmade decorations brought a sense of thrift and togetherness that store-bought ornaments couldn't match. A holiday corsage pinned to a winter coat was the finishing touch for many women heading out to church or to a Christmas party in the 1950s. These festive accessories, picked up at department store counters or crafted at home, often featured sprigs of faux holly, shiny ribbon, tiny bells, and sometimes a miniature ornament or two. The look was cheerful and unmistakably seasonal, a small but meaningful signal of holiday spirit and mid-century etiquette. Florists and dime stores saw a spike in sales each December, as women chose corsages to match their outfits or to give as gifts. Worn on lapels or on dresses, these sparkling pins turned every outing into a celebration. Number 17. Hard ribbon candy. Holiday candy dishes in the 1950s almost always held a tangle of hard ribbon candy, the glossy waves catching the light and promising a burst of peppermint or clove. In New England, family-run candy makers still pulled hot sugar by hand, shaping each strip on metal hooks before feeding it into spinning wheels and air-powered cutters, a dance of timing and burnt fingertips that often lasted through the night. Humidity could ruin a batch, so production happened in cool, dry rooms, with workers moving quickly to keep the candy crisp. Once cooled, those colorful ribbons waited in crystal bowls or tins, ready for sticky fingers and curious tastes all season long. A Lionel or American Flyer train circling the base of the Christmas tree brought a sense of wonder to 1950s living rooms. The soft electric hum, the whistle echoing beneath pine branches, and the hypnotic loop of cars weaving through miniature villages turned the tree into a living diorama. Toy makers competed fiercely for the best spot in department store windows, offering free demonstration layouts and bright catalog spreads to capture children's imaginations. For many families, the train was both spectacle and soundtrack, anchoring the holiday scene with motion and sound. In 1953 alone, over 2 million Lionel sets were sold, with Christmas accounting for the bulk of those sales. By the mid-1950s, more than half of American households owned a television. On December evenings, families gathered in front of their console sets, the living room glowing with anticipation. Holiday specials became new rituals, appointment viewing that shaped the flow of the night. The Ed Sullivan Show's Christmas episodes drew millions, featuring choirs, magicians, and stars performing beneath snowy sets designed to dazzle in black and white. Sponsors timed their broadcasts just after dinner, knowing families would plan their evenings around these events. For those without a television, neighbors were sometimes invited over, turning the living room into a small theater. The television became a modern hearth, drawing everyone together for a shared moment of wonder and song. Delicate glass ornaments, many hand-painted in the German town of Lauscha, were the crown jewels of 1950s Christmas trees. Before World War II, these fragile baubles arrived in wooden crates from Europe, but wartime embargoes halted imports and led American companies like Corning to step in and adapt light bulb machines to keep the tradition alive. When German artisans finally resumed shipping their shimmering birds and icicles in the early 1950s, families welcomed them back with a sense of reverence. Each ornament was carefully unwrapped from tissue paper, hung with steady hands, and then returned to its original box after the holidays. One wrong move could end a generation's memory. For many, these ornaments were more than decorations. They were heirlooms, quietly linking one Christmas to the next. Tinsel in the 1950s wasn't just a finishing touch. It was a statement. Heavy lead strands, cool to the touch and surprisingly weighty, draped over branches in long, shimmering curtains. Some families placed each piece carefully one by one, while others tossed handfuls for a burst of sparkle. Metallic garlands and homemade paper chains joined the mix, reflecting the era's love of chrome and shine. The result was a tree that caught every bit of light, turning living rooms into glittering showcases. Tinsel was saved and reused year after year, a ritual that captured the maximalist spirit of mid-century holiday decor. Number 12. Live Christmas trees. Bundled in coats and mittens, families piled into station wagons and headed to tree lots glowing with string lights. Rows of Scotch pine and balsam fir stood ready for inspection, each one spun and measured for fullness before a final nod from Dad. After the deal was struck, workers hoisted the chosen tree onto the car roof and tied it down with twine for the ride home. Needles scattered across back seats and hallways as the tree was carried inside, trimmed at the trunk and settled into a metal stand with a pan of water to keep it fresh. For many, this ritual began right after Thanksgiving, a yearly outing that brought a piece of the outdoors into the heart of the home. On crisp December nights in the 1950s, the sound of carolers drifted through neighborhoods, carried by voices bundled in scarves and mittens. Church choirs, scout troops, and groups of friends joined together, braving snow and cold to bring familiar songs to every doorstep. Families inside would open their doors to the frosty air, offering cookies, mugs of cocoa, or a few coins for charity. Children clutched decorated cans, collecting for local causes as they sang. Caroling was not just about music. It was a way to connect with neighbors and share the warmth of the season long before screens filled every evening. The simple act of singing together turned entire blocks into communities, each song a thread tying people closer for the holidays. Stacks of greeting cards piled up on kitchen tables across America each December, ready to be signed, addressed, and sent on their way. With a 3-cent stamp, families could reach cousins in California or grandparents back in the Midwest, an affordable way to bridge the miles that post-war moves had stretched between loved ones. Keeping track of who sent a card back became a quiet competition, with names checked and updated for next year. Cards weren't just mail, they were part of the decor, strung on ribbons across doorways or lined up along the mantle, filling the house with snowy scenes, glittering bells, and handwritten wishes for peace and joy. Number 9, bubble lights. Bubble lights brought a sense of wonder to 1950s Christmas trees, their glass tubes filled with a special liquid that bubbled and shimmered as the bulbs warmed up. The effect was hypnotic, tiny columns of bubbles rising and falling in reds, greens, and golds, casting a gentle glow in dimly lit living rooms. These lights used methylene chloride inside the tubes, which started bubbling at a low temperature, and the glass was fragile and could break if handled roughly. Fire departments and safety groups advised families to turn off the lights when leaving the house or heading to bed, out of concern for safety. Even with the occasional worry, children and adults alike found themselves lost in the motion, watching the bubbles dance while the rest of the world seemed to slow down for just a moment. A spinning disc of colored plastic in a single spotlight suddenly made the entire living room glow in shifting waves of blue, red, green, and gold. The color wheel projector was more than a gadget, it was a solution to a modern problem. Aluminum Christmas trees with their metallic needles could not safely hold electric lights. Instead, families set up these projectors at the base, letting the rotating wheel bathe every branch in changing hues. Advertisements promised a dazzling space-age effect that felt straight out of tomorrow. For children, watching the tree morph from cool blue to fiery red was hypnotic, a futuristic spectacle that made the holidays feel as new as the decade itself. Shiny branches, perfectly spaced and cold to the touch, made the aluminum Christmas tree the ultimate conversation starter by the late 1950s. It was patented in 1958 by the Aluminum Specialty Company in Wisconsin and sold under the Evergleam brand. These metallic trees promised a modern Christmas that would last for years. Some families loved the futuristic look, pairing their trees with spinning color wheels for a living room light show that felt straight out of a science fiction movie. Others called them tacky, and they missed the scent and softness of real pine. Neighborhood debates flared, and one thing was certain. Nothing else captured the space-age spirit of the era, quite like a silver tree gleaming in the window. As darkness fell on Christmas Eve, families pulled on coats and gathered at churches bright with candlelight. Children scrubbed and dressed in their Sunday best, filed into pews beside parents and grandparents. Hymns filled the air, and the soft glow of candles flickered across nativity pageants and choirs. In towns big and small, attendance at these services soared, with Protestant, Catholic, and other congregations welcoming packed houses for midnight masses and evening worship. The hush of prayer and the sound of familiar carols offered a moment of peace before the excitement of stockings and gifts. For many, this was the heart of the holiday, a pause to remember the deeper meaning beneath all the sparkle and anticipation. Stockings lined the mantelpiece, each one stitched or knit, waiting through the hush of Christmas Eve. In homes without a fireplace, they might dangle from doorknobs or bedposts, anywhere a child could check for surprises come morning. Catalogs and department stores pitched small treasures as stocking stuffers. These included a yo-yo, a tiny doll, a deck of cards, or a handful of hard candy. Oranges and walnuts tucked deep in the toe were a sweet, fragrant promise, especially for kids who waited all year for such treats. The ritual of hanging stockings set the stage for a night full of hope. Every sock a quiet wish for Santa's visit. On Christmas Eve in the 1950s, children carefully selected the best cookie from the tin and placed it on a special plate, sometimes the one reserved for guests, sometimes the one with the gold rim. A glass of milk sat beside it, and for the reindeer, maybe a carrot or two. The tradition had roots in European folklore, but by this era it was woven into American family ritual, a small act of hospitality for a visitor expected after midnight. Children whispered about which cookie Santa might like best, then tried to stay awake, ears straining for sleigh bells or the sound of hooves on the roof. In the morning, the most magical proof, a few crumbs left on the plate in an empty glass, as if Santa himself had paused for a midnight snack before moving on. Number 3, Christmas morning breakfast. Christmas morning in the 1950s didn't end when the last present was unwrapped. In kitchens across America, the celebration began anew. The smell of frying bacon and fresh coffee drifted through hallways, mingling with the sharp sweetness of pine needles and the faint trace of wrapping paper. Pancakes sizzled on cast iron griddles, and cinnamon buns rose golden and sticky in the warmth of the oven. Some families brought out their brand new waffle irons, gifts from the Sears Wish Book, testing them for the first time while laughter echoed around the table. Breakfast was hearty, eggs and toast, maybe a ring of breakfast sausage, or a stack of French toast dusted with powdered sugar. Along the coast, oyster stew might appear, and in the Midwest, breakfast casseroles were common. Children compared treasures, passing toys and books across the table, while parents finally relaxed, their work done for another year. The kitchen, once the site of late-night baking and secret wrapping, became the heart of the holiday, filled with the clatter of plates and the warmth of a family reunited. For many, this meal was the true center of Christmas, a second gathering that turned morning excitement into lasting togetherness, with every bite and every story adding to the glow of the day. The scent of a real Christmas tree was the invisible centerpiece of the 1950s holiday home. As soon as a fresh-cut pine or fir crossed the threshold, its fragrance seeped into every room, sharp and green, with a hint of sap that clung to hands and sweaters. For many families, keeping that aroma alive meant practical rituals, lowering the thermostat at night, topping up water in the metal stand, and sweeping up needles that tracked across linoleum floors. Oral histories from the era nearly always mention the pine smell first, often before any memory of gifts or decorations. Parents would open a window just a crack to let in crisp winter air, hoping the cold would help the tree last until New Year's. The scent mingled with other holiday signatures, sugar cookies baking in the oven, cinnamon from morning rolls, and the faint tang of wood smoke from the fireplace. Together, these smells formed a backdrop that signaled Christmas had truly arrived. Even decades later, a whiff of fresh-cut pine can transport someone straight back to a 1950s living room, where the tree stood glowing in the corner, and every breath seemed to hold a little bit of magic. In interviews, more people named the scent of real evergreen as their strongest holiday memory than any single gift or tradition. The aroma was Christmas itself, impossible to bottle, but unforgettable once experienced. Before dawn, children waited at the top of the stairs, hearts pounding, straining to hear the quiet footsteps of the grown-ups and the click of a camera being readied. Parents insisted on a pause. Lights were switched on, coffee was poured, and film was loaded before anyone could rush into the living room. The house hummed with anticipation. That first glimpse was electric, the tree glowing, tinsel shimmering, presents perfectly arranged, and stockings heavy with small surprises. For many families, the tradition meant taking turns to unwrap gifts, one by one drawing out the wonder and making each moment last. Wrapping paper was often folded and saved, a sign of thrift and care. In the 1950s, the spirit of Christmas morning often centered on one special gift: a new bicycle, a doll, or a train set bought with months of saving through Christmas clubs. By 1950, more than 8 million Americans used these clubs, setting aside a little each week to make the holiday possible. The sense of wonder, the careful planning, and the joy of being together made Christmas morning the emotional high point of the season. For many, the memory of that first dazzling moment, tree aglow, family gathered, possibility in the air, remains the purest kind of holiday magic. Across all 20 traditions, one pattern endures. A 1950s Christmas was about shared experience, blending new technology with timeless rituals. Whether families gathered around the television or the tree, connection mattered most. That spirit still shapes how we celebrate today, reminding us that the real magic of the holidays isn't in things, but in togetherness. Which tradition would you bring back? Share your memories below.